Welcome to today's Seidokan Saturday, which, if you don't know, I actually video these on Thursday. I don't have fancy editing. A lot of people have editing programs and put on their little screen. I don't have that. This is how it would be if you came to my class. This is what we're doing. Our technique for today is called hasami geri. For those of you literate in Japanese, you might recognize the word hasami as scissors. The scissor kick is our first jumping kick. A word about jumping kicks. Lots of words about jumping kicks. They can come in handy. And again, I go to MMA a lot to verify the utility of something, whether it's actually functional or whether we're living in a pipe dream. And if I've seen it ever pulled off in a kickboxing match or an MMA match or any kind of full contact venue, then I'll say, okay, it has some utility. Jumping kicks are high risk, high reward. As we get older, and I've mentioned before, complaining about my age, I'm old and feeble. At 63 with bursitis and arthritis, certain things are less quality than they used to be when I was younger. And I have pictures of me, I should have brought it to hold up to the camera, doing this kick when I was younger in Kempo, for example. But the jumping kicks in and of themselves, especially for the younger ones who can really perform them well, are an athletic move. What do we know about athletics? We know that as we age, our athleticism, our explosivity, our fast twitch fibers diminish. And so it may not be highly useful for someone in their 80s, or maybe even in their 50s if they've succumbed to injury. Athletic movements have an athletic lifespan. And as we've mentioned before, usually by the late 30s, early 40s, most athletes are done with their competitive careers, or at least at the level at which they used to compete. Doesn't mean we can't do them. It doesn't mean older people can't. There's summer games held in St. George, Utah for seniors, people over 60, who compete at a very high level in some very athletic events. But softball, basketball, I've seen some amazing players over the age of 60 and into their 80s even. But they're not jumping as high. They're not dunking regularly in those games like you might have seen them back when they were in their 30s and 40s or 20s or teens. So the scissor kick is a jumping kick. And even if you don't find a utility for it in actual self-defense or in combative sports competition, there is a usefulness to it in terms of its plyometrics. Plyometrics are not just about jumping, they're about creating an explosive movement. So as we do this and further jump kicks, just bear in mind that while they may not be 100% useful as is, what they are training is athleticism and balance in movement that can transfer to other techniques. So it could be just a training tool that you never actually use, just like I probably, in writing a letter, will never type QWERTY, which is the QWERTY keyboard, right? That's not a word, but you practice it. I probably, in most songs that I would play on the piano, I'm never going to play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but you practice it for finger strength and dexterity. Same kind of concept here. So even if you're not going to use it, it's worthwhile to practice. It is performed, as the name implies, by the legs switching places and then returning to the stance that you began in. Ideally, depending on your flexibility and the height of your jump, you can be kicking backwards with your front leg at the same time as you're in the air kicking forward with what was your rear leg. So we jump, and I'm sorry, there's no way I can show you this in slow motion. I may not be able to show you at all, so I have my young brown belt standing by just in case I biff it and fall. But we jump, switch legs in midair, and land back where we are. Essentially that's the scissor kick. To practice that, the first thing that I would have you do is start in your stance and just do jump knee tucks and land back with your feet apart. Now from early on, I have all of my kids just practice jump knee tucks in place. But now we're going to do it with the together and down so that I'm coming back in place. Then it's just a question of releasing the kick. Now, if we had parallel bars or some chairs, you could hold yourself up and practice the kicking motion. That would be a possibility. Not everybody has that available, but that's essentially the kick. There are exercises you can do to help you jump, but one of the best things you can do to learn to jump better is just to jump, okay? Yes, you need leg strength, you need balance, coordination, all of those things. There, again, I could hang from something and do my leg switching, but basically that's all there is to it. Jump, tuck the legs, kick in both directions, and land back, okay? Again, the old man version. Now the young man version. He's all warmed up from sitting there. This is what 20, 30 years ago could have looked like. Like this. There you go. So I was kicking here, he's up here. You see the difference, all right? Make sure. Hasami geri, scissor kick, switching feet. Practice, again, it's great for your plyometric and to learn to land on balance, to be able to get back into a fighting stance. Quick story, then I'll go away. I did a demonstration in Las Vegas 35 years ago, and while I was doing the demonstration, I had a plant at the gym. It was at a bodybuilding, not a bodybuilding, it was at a gym, public gym. But I had a plant roaming around the back complaining. I hate karate guys, always showing off, and he was mumbling to himself and creating a stir. And at a certain point, as we finished the demo, I had him come up and grab one of the practice club sticks that we'd been using for our self-defense demonstration. Then I had him come at me, and he came at me like he was going to take my knees out. And I jumped up over the thing, kicked him, landed it, barely touched his nose, had good control back in the day. And then he stood up, bowed, we acknowledged he was a plant, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it was kind of a funny thing, but in terms of actual utility, that might be a situation plyometrically. This also then can transfer into the jumping knees, which we're going to get into later, which you see frequently from like Colin McGregor and a lot of guys like to do in the MMA, that flying jumping knee concept, or if I'm tied up, if I'm tied up with my opponent, I got him here, I might jump up and use him to help me do the kick. So there is some utility for it beyond the plyometric exercise and the balance and coordination that it builds. That's our technique for today, hasami geri. Practice, jump, work on your plyometrics, and thank you for joining. Like, share, subscribe. I have a new website up, Seidokan.com from my GoDaddy. Go visit there. I have videos, links to the Seidokan Saturday and other YouTubes, as well as other Seidokan instructors that I'm adding from around the country who have their websites up as well. So like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, leave a comment, ask a question, tell me how ugly I am, whatever. Thank you for joining. And as always, until next week, keep practicing.